Okay, so Neil Druckmann just very recently appeared on the Sacred Symbols podcast, and he stirred the pot in terms of The Last of Us. And he was talking specifically about The Last of Us Part 1 and then maybe what happens in The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I don't know. It seems like he was specifically talking about the TV show, but obviously everybody is going to assume and believe that he's talking about the entire story of The Last of Us. So the video game and the TV show as well. They were talking about the cure that was supposed to kill Ellie and potentially save the world. Now, up to this point, before this interview, it's always been blurred. The lines have always been blurred, or the story has always been blurred in terms of would it have actually worked. It's been 50-50. A lot of people have believed that no, the cure wouldn't have worked because there was no real way of knowing if it would. There was no real way that they could have actually mass produced this vaccine and get it to the entire population of the world and actually save everyone. Even in The Last of Us Part 2, you see Abby's dad who's a little bit hesitant, like maybe it will, maybe it won't. You know, they have to open up her brain. So Ellie could have died for nothing. Ellie could have literally died for no reason at all. And that was a risk that Joel wasn't willing to take. Now, the other half or other people believe that the cure would have worked. They believe that it just would have because they said it would have because Ellie was immune, and they believe that somehow they would have been able to make this cure. Now, in the beginning of the TV show, the doctors say that there's this fungal infection, and if it were to touch humans, it would be catastrophic because there is no known cure and there would be no way of making a cure for this. It's uncurable. So he went on to say, basically he shut down this debate that has been going on for ages, since 2013, since the release of The Last of Us Part 1. This debate has always been there, but now it's apparently closed and sealed. Neil Druckmann says, could the Fireflies make a cure? Our intent was that yes, they could. Now, is our science a little shaky? That now people are questioning it? Yeah. It was a little shaky, and now people are questioning that. I can't say anything. All I can say is that our intent is that they would have been able to make a cure. That makes it a more interesting philosophical question for what Joel does. And I think what he says at the end, that makes it a more interesting philosophical question for what Joel does. I think that right there tells you why he said this. Why would he come out over 10 years later and say this? I think, and this is my opinion only, I think that to create more sympathy for Abby, to create more of a way for the fans to say, oh yeah, I understand why Abby did this. Oh yeah, Joel is a bad person. It's easier to paint Joel as a worse person than he was by saying, yeah, the cure would have absolutely worked and Joel 100% doomed the world. Because now you're like, oh, he was selfish. Oh, he wanted to play daddy. Oh, this and that. And now it's easier to hate this man who could have saved the world, especially if you look at everything that's going on. And then you hate him even more because he took the choice away from Ellie. You see how now you create Joel as this big bad person, and now there's more of a sympathy aspect towards Abby, and it's easier to hate Joel. I think that's why he said it. And what I don't understand is that Neil Druckmann wrote The Last of Us Part 1. He wrote it completely. He created Joel. He created this question. He created this dilemma that the character had. He has come out in record and said that if he was in Joel's shoes, he would have made the same decision. So I don't know. You have your greatest ever creation, which is The Last of Us 1. That's Neil Druckmann's greatest creation. And it feels like he's just tearing it down constantly. It feels like he's constantly trying to tear down Joel. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend. We all know that Joel wasn't a very good person. He himself says it. Since his daughter died, he had to do what he had to do to survive. And that was be a raider himself, be a killer, murderer, whatever it was. He was in a really, really dark place for a really long time. We know all that, right? We know what type of person Joel was. But I don't know. I feel like there was more of a sympathy with the character at times. And I feel like the majority of people understood Joel and even agreed with his point. You know, you don't really know if this cure was going to work. But now coming out and saying that it was going to work and it was always going to work, you just paint Joel as this really terrible guy, even more so. And I feel like it has been a constant attack on Joel's character for a long time now, to be honest. And, you know, whatever. Some of you guys are going to agree. Some of you guys are going to not agree. That's fine. It's just been hard to see. And even in the TV show with him kind of not being okay with Ellie's sexuality and kind of questioning that, you paint him in just a bad light. And I feel like they're just doing that because it'll be easier to dislike Joel, easier to, hate on him or something like that. And I really dislike it. I really disagree with it. And I can't understand why Neil Druckmann is doing that when it was his creation. He created Joel. Why are you destroying him or attempting to destroy him or attempting to ruin the legacy that he left behind? I really just don't get it.